The story of the dinosaurs does not begin with a roar, but with a profound and desolate silence. Before these magnificent creatures ever walked the Earth, our planet suffered the greatest catastrophe it has ever known. Around 252 million years ago, an event we now call the Great Dying occurred. This was the Permian-Triassic extinction, a cataclysm of unimaginable scale. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia spewed toxic gases into the atmosphere for thousands of years, poisoning the air and oceans. The climate spiraled out of control, and life itself was pushed to the very brink of annihilation. It was a true apocalypse, far worse than the one that would eventually claim the dinosaurs. Imagine a world nearly empty of life. The vibrant oceans, once teeming with trilobites and strange armored fish, became stagnant and toxic. On land, the dominant creatures, like the bulky, mammal-like synapsids, were all but erased from existence. It is estimated that over 90% of all marine species and 70% of all land animals vanished forever. The once lush forests withered, leaving behind a scarred and desolate landscape. This great extinction event reset the course of evolution, creating a vacuum in the global ecosystem. It was a world waiting for new rulers, a blank canvas upon which a new chapter of life could be written. And it was in this strange, recovering world that the first ancestors of the dinosaurs would take their first tentative steps. The few species that survived this ordeal were the ultimate survivors. They were tough, adaptable, and often small. Among them were a group of reptiles called the archosaurs, or ruling reptiles. This group was special. They were built for this harsh new world. The archosaurs possessed unique advantages that allowed them to thrive where so many others had failed. Over millions of years, this lineage would split and diversify, giving rise to two major branches of life that would come to dominate the planet. Media Group, time-lapse of reptile evolution, branching fossils on rock, split scene showing crocodilian and dinosaur ancestors, stock and distribute equally. One branch would lead to the crocodiles and their relatives, masters of the waterways. The other, however, would produce something entirely new: the dinosaurs. The stage was now perfectly set for a new dynasty to rise. The planet was slowly healing from its wounds. The climate, though harsh, was stabilizing. The competitors that had long kept the archosaurs in check were gone, leaving behind a world of opportunity. The survivors of the Great Dying were scattered and few, but they held within them the genetic potential for a new age of giants. The silence that followed the world's greatest extinction was about to be broken by the thundering footsteps of creatures unlike any that had come before. The age of reptiles was dawning, and the world would never be the same again. It was the beginning of the Mesozoic era. The Triassic period, spanning from about 252 to 201 million years ago, was a time of recovery and radical experimentation for life on Earth. The world's continents were not scattered as they are today. Instead, they were fused together into one colossal supercontinent called Pangaea. This immense landmass stretched from pole to pole, creating a climate of extremes. The interior of Pangaea was a vast, arid desert, a sun-scorched wasteland where only the hardiest plants and animals could survive. The coastal regions, however, experienced powerful seasonal monsoons, which brought life-giving rains and supported more diverse ecosystems. It was in this challenging environment that the first dinosaurs made their grand debut. The earliest dinosaurs were not the colossal giants we often imagine. They were small, nimble, and bipedal, meaning they walked on two legs. Around 230 million years ago, in a part of Pangaea that would one day become South America, creatures like Eoraptor and Herrerasaurus appeared. Eoraptor, the dawn plunderer, was only about the size of a large dog. These early pioneers were fast and agile, a crucial advantage in a world still populated by other formidable reptiles. Their most important evolutionary innovation was their posture. Unlike other reptiles that sprawled with their legs out to the side, dinosaurs had their legs positioned directly beneath their bodies, allowing for more efficient movement and greater stamina. This unique hip structure was the secret to their eventual success. It allowed them to run faster and for longer distances than their competitors, giving them an edge in both hunting and escaping danger. As the Triassic period progressed, these humble beginnings gave way to greater diversity. The first dinosaurs began to split into the major groups that would define their entire reign. The theropods, the two-legged meat-eaters, started their lineage here. At the same time, the sauropodomorphs, the ancestors of the long-necked giants, also emerged. These early herbivores were a sign of things to come, showing a clear trend toward increasing size as a defense against predators. However, the dinosaurs were not yet the undisputed rulers of the planet. They shared the Triassic world with a host of other strange and powerful creatures. Towering over the early dinosaurs were the Rauisuchians, a group of fearsome, crocodile-like predators that were the true apex carnivores of their time. In the water, giant amphibians still lurked. But the world was changing again. As the Triassic drew to a close, another wave of volcanic activity began as Pangaea started to break apart. This triggered another mass extinction, wiping out the dinosaurs' main rivals. The Rauisuchians were gone. The giant amphibians vanished. The dinosaurs, however, survived, ready to seize a world that was now theirs for the taking. The end of the Triassic period marked a pivotal moment in the history of life. The extinction event that closed the period was devastating for many groups, but for the dinosaurs, it was a golden opportunity, with their primary competitors suddenly erased from the planet. They were free to diversify and expand into every available ecological niche. The world was now open territory, and the dinosaurs wasted no time in claiming it. The dawn of the Jurassic period would see them grow larger, more diverse, and more dominant than ever before. This was the moment when the dinosaurs truly inherited the Earth, setting the stage for an era of giants that would last for over 100 million years. One of the most significant developments during this transition was the rise of the sauropodomorphs. In the late Triassic, dinosaurs like Plateosaurus had already hinted at the potential for great size. These creatures were early long-necked herbivores, reaching lengths of up to 30 feet. They could walk on 2 or 4 legs and use their long necks to browse on tall vegetation. They were a successful group, but they were just the beginning. As the Jurassic period began, their descendants, the true sauropods, would take this body plan to its absolute extreme. They became fully quadrupedal, supporting their immense weight on 4 pillar-like legs. The sauropods evolved to become the largest land animals the world has ever known. This incredible size was not just for show, it was a key survival strategy. Being enormous made them nearly immune to predation once they reached adulthood. A massive body also housed a gigantic digestive system, necessary for breaking down the tough plant matter that made up their diet. Their incredibly long necks allowed them to reach food sources high in the treetops, far beyond the reach of any other contemporary herbivore. They were like living, breathing cranes, efficiently harvesting food across a wide vertical range without having to move their enormous bodies. This explosion in size and diversity was fueled by a changing world. As Pangaea continued to break apart into the northern continent of Laurasia and the southern continent of Gondwana, the climate changed dramatically. The vast arid deserts of the Triassic gave way to a warmer, wetter, and more stable global climate. This greenhouse world encouraged the spread of lush forests of conifers, cycads, and ferns. For the herbivorous dinosaurs, this was an all-you-can-eat buffet that stretched across the globe. This abundance of food was the fuel that powered the rise of the giants, enabling the sauropods to achieve their legendary proportions and setting the stage for the epic drama of the Jurassic period. Welcome to the Jurassic period, an era that lasted from 201 to 145 million years ago. This is the time that most people think of when they hear the word dinosaur. It was an age ruled by giants, a world where the ground trembled beneath the feet of colossal sauropods and the air echoed with the calls of fearsome predators. The breakup of Pangaea had a profound effect on the planet, creating new coastlines and inland seas that moderated the global climate. The world became a much more pleasant place, with warm temperatures and high humidity supporting vast, verdant forests. This lush vegetation was the foundation of a complex food web that supported the most massive creatures ever to walk the Earth. The undisputed kings of the Jurassic landscape were the sauropods. These long-necked, four-legged herbivores were the titans of their time. Species like Brachiosaurus, with its giraffe-like posture, could raise its head to nibble on the tops of the tallest trees. Diplodocus, one of the longest animals ever, used its whip-like tail as a formidable defensive weapon. Then there was Apatosaurus, a bulky and powerful giant that shook the ground with every step. These creatures were living mountains of flesh and bone, engineering their ecosystems simply by moving through them. Their immense size was their greatest defense, But it also meant they needed to consume enormous quantities of food every single day to survive. But the Jurassic was not only about giants. The dinosaur family tree was branching out in many different directions. Among the herbivores, a new and fascinating group was making its mark. The ornithischians, or bird-hipped dinosaurs. The most famous of these was the incredible Stegosaurus. This bizarre-looking animal was a four-legged plant eater with a double row of large, bony plates running down its back and a set of sharp spikes on its tail, known as a thagomizer. Scientists believe the plates were used for display or to help regulate its body temperature, while the spiked tail was undoubtedly a deadly weapon, used to fend off predators. Alongside the sauropods and stegosaurs, smaller dinosaurs also thrived. The chicken-sized Compsognathus, for example, was a swift little theropod that darted through the undergrowth, hunting for insects and lizards. This diversity shows that the Jurassic ecosystem was rich and complex, with animals of all shapes and sizes finding their place. The world was a dinosaur's paradise, a global kingdom where they were the undisputed masters of the land. From the smallest hunters to the largest herbivores, the Jurassic period represented a golden age for these magnificent reptiles, a time when their reign over the planet was absolute and unchallenged. Where there are giant herbivores, there must also be giant carnivores to hunt them. The Jurassic period was home to some of the most fearsome predators the world had ever seen. These were the theropods, the bipedal meat-eaters whose lineage had begun in the Triassic. Now, in the food-rich world of the Jurassic, they evolved into terrifying apex predators. The most famous of these was the mighty Allosaurus. This powerful carnivore was the top predator of its time in North America and Europe. A killer perfectly designed to take down large prey. It grew up to 40 feet long, with a massive skull filled with blade-like serrated teeth. Allosaurus was a hunter of giants. Fossil evidence, including bite marks on the bones of sauropods and Stegosaurus, shows that it regularly tackled prey much larger than itself. It likely hunted in packs, using teamwork to overwhelm the colossal herbivores that shared its world. With powerful legs for chasing down prey and strong arms tipped with 3 large, sharp claws for grappling, Allosaurus was a formidable beast. It was the lion of the Jurassic, a ferocious predator that sat at the very top of the food chain. Its presence shaped the evolution of its prey, driving them to grow larger or develop more elaborate defenses to survive. But Allosaurus was not the only large carnivore on the block. Other impressive theropods roamed the Jurassic lands. Ceratosaurus, for example, was a slightly smaller but equally fierce predator, known for the prominent horn on its snout and the small horns over its eyes. These features were likely used for display to attract mates or intimidate rivals. While not as large as Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus was still a dangerous hunter, armed with its own set of terrifyingly sharp teeth. The diversity of these large predators shows just how many resources were available in the Jurassic environment, enough to support multiple species of giant meat-eaters in the same ecosystem. Perhaps the most significant evolutionary event among the theropods during this time was happening on a much smaller scale. It was during the Jurassic that a group of small, feathered theropods began to evolve in a new and radical direction. These were the ancestors of birds. The famous fossil Archaeopteryx, discovered in Germany, dates to the late Jurassic. It had feathers and wings like a modern bird, but it also retained many dinosaur features, such as a long bony tail, teeth in its beak, and claws on its wings. This creature is a perfect transitional fossil, providing a stunning snapshot of evolution in action, and proving that birds are, in fact, living dinosaurs. While the dinosaurs dominated the land, the skies and seas of the Jurassic period were ruled by other magnificent groups of reptiles. In the air, the pterosaurs, or winged lizards, reigned supreme. These were not dinosaurs, but they were their close cousins, sharing a common ancestor back in the Triassic. By the Jurassic, they had diversified into a dazzling array of forms. There were long-tailed pterosaurs, like Rhamphorhynchus, which had a diamond-shaped vein at the end of its tail, likely used as a rudder for steering. These creatures were expert fish eaters, soaring over the oceans and snatching prey from the water with their needle-like teeth. As the Jurassic progressed, new types of pterosaurs emerged. The short-tailed pterodactyloids like the famous Pterodactylus became more common. These flying reptiles had shorter tails and longer necks, representing a more advanced and agile form of flyer. Pterosaurs ranged dramatically in size, from species as small as a sparrow to those with wingspans of several feet. They were the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight, a remarkable feat of evolution that allowed them to conquer the skies millions of years before the first birds. Their wings were not made of feathers but of a leathery membrane of skin that stretched from a dramatically elongated fourth finger to their ankles. Beneath the waves, the oceans were a dangerous and wondrous place, filled with giant marine reptiles. The ichthyosaurs, which had looked like reptilian dolphins, continued to thrive, but they now shared the seas with new and powerful predators. The most notable of these were the plesiosaurs. These reptiles had long, flexible necks, small heads, and barrel-shaped bodies propelled by 4 powerful flippers. They were like sea serpents with paddles, using their incredible necks to dart their heads into schools of fish. Some, like Elasmosaurus, had necks that were longer than the rest of their body combined, containing an astonishing number of vertebrae. Alongside the long-necked plesiosaurs swam their terrifying cousins, the pliosaurs. These were the apex predators of the Jurassic seas. Pliosaurs had the same body plan but with a crucial difference. They had short, powerful necks and enormous crocodile-like skulls. They were the oceanic equivalent of Allosaurus. A prime example is Liopleurodon, a massive marine hunter that could grow to over 20 feet long. Its skull alone was several feet long and filled with huge, conical teeth. It was a true sea monster, an ambush predator that would have hunted plesiosaurs, large fish, and anything else unlucky enough to cross its path. The Jurassic oceans were a battleground for these incredible marine reptiles. The final chapter in the Age of Dinosaurs was the Cretaceous period, which lasted from 145 to 66 million years ago. This was the longest of the 3 Mesozoic periods, and it was a time of immense change and peak dinosaur diversity. The supercontinent of Pangaea was a distant memory, as the continents continued to drift apart toward their modern-day positions. This created more isolated land masses and extensive coastlines, leading to even higher sea levels that flooded the centers of many continents. The world was a hothouse, a warm tropical planet with no polar ice caps. This global greenhouse climate fostered incredible biodiversity on land and in the sea. One of the most significant changes during the Cretaceous was the evolution and spread of a new type of plant, the angiosperms, or flowering plants. For the first time, the world was decorated with flowers. This botanical revolution had a massive impact on the ecosystem. New insects like bees and butterflies evolved to pollinate these plants, and in turn, new types of dinosaurs evolved to eat them. The rise of flowering plants created new food sources and more complex habitats, which helped to fuel the final great diversification of the dinosaurs. The landscapes of the Cretaceous were more vibrant and varied than ever before. Dinosaur diversity reached its absolute zenith during this period. The long-necked sauropods of the Jurassic had declined in some parts of the world, but they were replaced by a new group known as the titanosaurs. These were the last and, in some cases, the largest of the sauropods. Giants like Argentinosaurus and Patagotitan, discovered in South America, are contenders for the largest land animals of all time, weighing over 70 tons. They were so massive that they likely had to move constantly, feeding on the Cretaceous flora to fuel their colossal bodies. They represent the final spectacular flourish of the long-necked lineage. Meanwhile, the ornithischian, or bird-hipped herbivores, exploded into an incredible variety of forms. This was truly their time to shine. The hadrosaurs, or duck-billed dinosaurs like Edmontosaurus, became incredibly common. They had complex dental batteries with hundreds of teeth for grinding up tough plant material, and likely lived in vast herds. The ceratopsians, or horned dinosaurs, also appeared, culminating in the famous Triceratops with its 3 facial horns and massive bony frill. Finally, there were the pachycephalosaurs, the bone-headed dinosaurs, known for their incredibly thick domed skulls, which they may have used for headbutting contests. This was the peak of dinosaur evolution. Of all the dinosaurs that have ever lived, one reigns supreme in our collective imagination: Tyrannosaurus rex. This legendary predator lived at the very end of the Cretaceous period, from about 68 to 66 million years ago, in what is now Western North America. T-Rex was the culmination of millions of years of theropod evolution, a perfectly engineered killing machine. It was one of the largest terrestrial carnivores of all time, measuring over 40 feet long and standing nearly 13 feet tall at the hips. Its most terrifying feature was its enormous head, which was over 4 feet long and housed the most powerful bite force of any land animal known to science. The jaws of T-Rex were not designed for slicing flesh like those of Allosaurus. Instead, they were built for crushing bone. Its teeth were not blades but thick, conical, banana-sized spikes, deeply rooted in its powerful jaw. With a single bite, it could shatter the bones of its prey, inflicting catastrophic damage. Its eyes were large and forward-facing, giving it excellent binocular vision for judging distance, a key trait for a predator. While its tiny two-fingered arms have been the subject of much debate and amusement, they were far from useless, as they were surprisingly strong and may have been used to help it rise from a resting position or to hold struggling prey. T-Rex was the undisputed apex predator of its environment. It shared its world with some of the most well-defended herbivores ever to exist, including the three-horned Triceratops and the heavily armored Ankylosaurus. Hunting these animals would have been incredibly dangerous. A charging Triceratops would have been a formidable opponent, and a blow from the bony club on the tail of an Ankylosaurus could have shattered a Tyrannosaur's leg. This prehistoric arms race between predator and prey drove both to their evolutionary extremes, creating a world of spectacular and deadly giants right before the end. While T-Rex was the king in North America, other fascinating theropods ruled elsewhere. In South America, there was Carnotaurus, a bizarre predator with two bull-like horns over its eyes and even tinier vestigial arms. In Africa, the enormous Spinosaurus, with its crocodile-like snout and giant sail on its back, hunted in and around rivers, likely preying on giant fish. And across Asia and North America, smaller, feathered theropods like Velociraptor, which was actually about the size of a turkey, hunted in packs. The end of the Cretaceous was a golden age for carnivores, a time when the theropods reached their final, most terrifying and most diverse forms. The reign of the dinosaurs, which had lasted for an astonishing 165 million years, came to a sudden and catastrophic end 66 million years ago. The world that had been a warm, thriving paradise for these creatures was about to be shattered in an instant. The agent of this destruction came from outer space. A massive asteroid, estimated to be at least 6 miles wide, was on a collision course with Earth. It slammed into the planet in the area of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, striking with the force of billions of atomic bombs. This was the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, and it would change the course of life on Earth forever. The immediate aftermath of the impact was apocalyptic. The impact itself created a gigantic crater, the Chicxulub crater, and sent a blast wave of superheated air and rock expanding for hundreds of miles, incinerating everything in its path. It triggered mega tsunamis that washed hundreds of miles inland around the globe. Trillions of tons of pulverized rock and debris were ejected into the atmosphere, and as this material rained back down, the friction heated the air to oven-like temperatures, sparking global wildfires that consumed the world's lush forests. The sky turned dark, and a new, terrifying silence began to fall across the land. The worst was yet to come. The immense cloud of dust, soot, and sulfur from the impact and wildfires shrouded the planet, blocking out the sunlight for months, possibly even years. This impact winter caused global temperatures to plummet. Without sunlight, plants could not photosynthesize, and they died off in massive numbers. The entire global food chain collapsed from the bottom up. The great herbivorous dinosaurs, deprived of their food, starved to death. In turn, the giant carnivores, including the mighty T-Rex, soon followed with nothing left to hunt. The seas were not spared, as the giant marine reptiles like the mosasaurs and plesiosaurs also perished. In the end, about 75% of all species on Earth were wiped out. All non-avian dinosaurs, the pterosaurs and the giant marine reptiles, were gone forever. But life, as it always does, endured. Small, adaptable creatures that could burrow or shelter and did not need much food were the survivors. Among them were our ancestors, the small, shrew-like mammals that had lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs for millions of years. With the giants gone, the world was theirs for the taking. This catastrophic event closed the Mesozoic era and opened the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals. The dinosaurs' extinction paved the way for our own rise, a dramatic and final act in the incredible story of the age of reptiles.